Hi, Simon Jackson here, Power Farming Ashburton, Yellow Principal. Today we're down here with Ross Duncan and his main man Steve. I'll introduce Ross in a second. He's invested in an iPlough this season for his farming operation. I'll let Ross tell you a little bit about why, and then Steve will tell us a little bit about the operation of the machine and what the plough does for them in their operation as well. So.
Basically, we've got about 300 hectares on this block, just slightly less, which is pretty much goes 100% arable from small seeds to grain and also maize and sweet corn. We also have 3 dairy blocks situated around Ashburton that we also do all the regrassing work and any other crops such as fodder beet on those blocks. So the reason we used to have an 8-furrow trailing plough, we decided to make the switch to the smaller mounted plough, mainly because the paddock sizes on the dairy blocks are smaller and a whole lot more agile to use the mounted plough. And when it came to these larger paddocks on the arable block, we were finding that the big tractor was doing all the ploughing and then had to do the top work, etc. So by going to the smaller plough, we were able to get 2 tractors going, one ploughing and the bigger tractor hauling around the larger top working equipment. We've actually found it to, even though it feels a wee bit slower going to a smaller plough, we're actually getting over the area quicker by completing the job with 2 machines.
Yeah, we just find that the mounted plough is definitely a lot more, like Ross said, agile on the dairy farm. You can get into corners a lot better, and your headlands seem to end up a lot tidier. And just the way the plough works, with all the features it's got, like it'll drop the back wheel in later, so you don't get a big triangle like you do with a conventional mounted plough. And the furrow control is just brilliant on it. Like, it just keeps a nice straight furrow depending on, it doesn't matter what sort of soil type you go through. You can go through 3 or 4 soil types in the same run and it'll just stay straight, and it's always just continually altering the very width. It takes a lot of pressure off the operator, because you're not continually working that very width switch to keep it straight. It's just, it just makes the job a whole lot simpler.
And it seems to be able to operate well across different things, like from ploughing grass to maize stubble, and we find those dairy farms are particularly compacted with the dairy cows on them all the time. We're ploughing up 10+ year old paddocks. It just seems to go in the ground quite well, doesn't it?
Seems to dig. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't pop out of the ground. It's very good in that respect.
Good, so we've got the plough specced on knock-on points with maize skimmers and 1 rear coulter, and that seems to be not a bad mix for a multitude of tasks, I suppose, or soil types, isn't it? So,
yeah, it is fairly daunting when you come into a 33 hectare paddock like this with 5-furrow plough. You think, well, what's going to happen? But like Ross said, you get 2 machines going. At the end of the day, you're
quite efficient.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And you're ploughing at what width normally, Steve?
Oh, it's about 2.25 metres.
Yep.
It seems to be about comfortable for it.
Right.
Another good feature with it too is, because we've got the dairy farms dotted all around, the actual transport mode of the plough is just brilliant.
Yeah, safe.
It's safe, yeah. And it's so much, like you say, just safe. It's just turn corners and you haven't got the back of the plough swinging way out, and takes a lot of pressure off all the pressure off the trackage.
Well, we're having to cross the main road with it and what have you, and I don't think it'd be a good look with it swinging up in the air.
And horsepower wise, what are you here?
170.
170, and yeah, when it's hard, you're using it. Yeah. We could probably, I think 200 would be nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
For our country, I mean, if it was soft country, then 170 horsepower is fine. But for what we're doing, it's
what depth you at?
Yeah, you're about 8 inches. Yeah.
Do you play with settings on the screen much, Steve? Like the rollover angles and that when you're setting up in different paddocks, or?
Yes and no. I find now that I've got it set pretty much where I want it, and it seems to be the same going from paddock to paddock. It doesn't alter much.
And I think probably something that we found quite different from our previous plough to this plough is a movement in these legs. We get, we do get stony patches in the paddocks here, and you actually just, the whole plough doesn't take the force of the stones. Those legs move so well that the plough sits in the ground nicely, and I think that's why it stays in. It doesn't jump out because the legs move so well.
Probably one of the most impressive paddocks I've seen you plough is that one under the pivot where you did the curve in that grass paddock on the road there.
Yep.
You had the furrow control working, so it did a nice circular finish around the paddock. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah. I will say that these knock-on points are fantastic.
They're good.
I think they probably help it dig.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm away from one of the dairy farms, we just got a wee 400 litre diesel tank.
Yes.
And this takes about 200 litres. I can have points changed while that tractor's filling. I've still got time up the sleeve. So
yeah, and they take a lot of wear off the shins.
you take a lot of wear off the shins.
Yeah. Landslides.
Yeah.
Well, the first time we've actually dealt with power farming was with this plough. But we, the transaction and looking at it and has, it's been great. Their mechanic came out and, it got set up and it, and then when we went to use it in the paddock and trial it, they came out and did help with a lot of the setting up, and we were didn't know a whole lot about it, and the mechanic they had seemed to be pretty well up to speed with it, and I think that was pretty invaluable. And there's been the odd little thing that has happened since, and we'd contact the mechanic and he could solve a few things over the phone, and Simon's rung on a couple of occasions how it's all going, and look, any issues you have, just feel free to call and what have you, and the parts back up and what have you, whenever they're there, they know exactly what it is, and plonk on the bench goes the proper points, and so it's been great. Obviously there's wearing parts on it, and as we all know with machinery, things do break. Farmers are very good at breaking things. To have somebody, a dealership 10 minutes down the road is extremely important, and to the extent, I think if it was a make of plough that was 50 or 80 kilometres away, I probably wouldn't have gone there. Yeah, very important that it's local.
It is good too, because Simon operates some really good opening hours, like we could pop in there at 7:30 in the morning on the way to work and grab what we need, and also Saturday mornings being open is a big advantage as well.
I got it from our point of view. It was a seamless transaction and enjoyable. Installed under what you'd class as
the difficult conditions
in COVID. So, but anyway, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And you make it work. So.
And at the time we had an ex-maize paddock to plough, and we needed to get it done to get it into the next crop, and we thought, how are we going to do this through COVID, and we dropped the tractor off and they worked away on it, and it just all happened, and we kept our distances and bits and pieces, and made it work, and the paddock got ploughed.
Some elbow tapping.